You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I am your host, Steph, and I am here with a solo pod. It's been a while, but you know what? When it comes to certain topics during the off season, we got to do some extra episodes, right? And I think now is a perfect time to do an extra episode because yesterday we got some not even surprising. We got some report. We got some news. And it was regarding Trey Lance and the 49ers fielding calls on Trey Lance. I'm going to share the tweet over here as soon as my thing. Here we go. All right. So the 49ers, per Ian Rapoport, they have fielded calls on Trey Lance. Here's what the actual tweet says. The 49ers have received inquiries from several teams looking into a potential trade for former number 3 pick quarterback Trey Lance. The conversations have been the result of SF fielding the calls, not making them, with teams aware that Brock Purdy is likely the future starter. Now, I want you guys to look at this and pay attention to it. There's a couple things to make note of here. First, the conversations have been the result of SF fielding calls, not making them, with teams aware that Brock Purdy is likely the future starter. This reeks of a John Lynch, or at least an in the building leak, right? If you want to call it leak, leak sounds bad, but you know what I mean. Clearly, Ian Rapoport is getting this information from somewhere. To me, this sounds like it's coming from inside the building. That's okay. It's, and the reason that I get the sense, it's very politically correct, and it does match up with what John Lynch said at the Combine. And just to recap what John Lynch said at the Combine, he said several things, right? But this is one of the quotes. "We like Trey on our team right now. Kyle and I have always joked we'd trade each other if someone would give us a good enough deal. So we listen to anything, but we like Trey on our team." So, and they've said this before about other scenarios like Deebo Samuel. They kind of said the same thing. We listen on anybody. Okay, so it's very them. You know what I mean? And so remember that Kyle Shanahan did also echo those same sentiments as at the Combine as well when he spoke with the media. And remember, if the 49ers were the ones making the calls, it would not be good for business, right? So that's another reason to make it a point to mention that teams are calling us. There's a market for Lance. Don't miss out. We are listening. And also, with teams aware that Brock Purdy is likely the starter, that's a very politically correct part because it doesn't make it totally seem like you're trying to get rid of Lance just because you don't like him or for any other reason, because that would make teams not want him either, right? Or it at least make them think twice about giving up picks for him if you weren't calling teams. Or sorry, if you were calling teams, it'd make teams a little uneasy. Like, okay, why you want to get rid of him so bad, right? So I think both of these two things together and putting that in the report is like, okay, well, that makes sense. They're not calling teams. And also they know Brock Purdy is probably the starter. So that's why they want to get rid of Lance, So people, of course, they go crazy with this report. Of course, like, even though this isn't even like new information, it's literally just like a recap of what John Lynch said at the Combine and what we could have expected was going to happen. Like, no freaking way teams are calling about Trey Lance. Oh my God. Trey Lance, he's going to be traded during the draft. It's happening, people. What exactly about this report wasn't something that we already figured or assumed based on John and Kyle's comments? And the fact that we know there are quarterback needy teams, some of which won't be in the range of getting any of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in this draft. So, of course, there's going to be a couple of teams who need quarterbacks who aren't going to get one, or at least one that they probably like or feel comfortable with. So, of course, those teams are going to call. None of this is surprising. None of it. It changed nothing for me. Now, Ian followed this first tweet up with saying that no trade is imminent. And the 49ers would almost certainly want to make sure Brock Purdy's rehab continues to go as smoothly as it has been going. The interest from other teams in Lance has been there. So, no trade is imminent, people. Oh, and the 49ers want to make sure Brock Purdy's rehab is going well. Because, duh, I mean, why wouldn't they? Like, why would they trade Trey Lance before knowing that Brock Purdy's rehab is in a good spot? You know what I mean? These two things do seem very important in the discussion, but of course, people ignoring that, people ignoring all logic, people assuming that this means Trey Lance is going to be traded. Now, there's a lot of people that were wondering, well, why aren't we hearing any of the 49ers beat writers say anything about this? Well, yesterday, a few hours after Ian Rapoport spoke, Matt Maiocco did address this, and he did confirm that. Here's what he said in his piece. A source confirmed Ian Rapoport's report that, yes, unspecified teams have called about Lance's availability, and no, the 49ers are not actively seeking to trade him. That's from Matt Maiocco. So if you guys trust Maiocco a little bit more than Rapoport, that's what he said. Some people are drawing parallels to the Deebo Samuel drama and what happened there just a season ago, when it did feel like a real possibility that the 49ers could trade Deebo, despite saying that they weren't like wanting to trade him. But again, it was the same thing of like, we'll listen about anyone or any trades. So why, and some people also ask, like, why would John Lynch want to get teams to make offers if they know they don't really want to trade him? Like, I think it's not a bad thing. I think it makes sense for the 49ers. And if you guys notice, it's always right before the draft that this happens. Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of. Again, Deebo Samuel, and now with Trey Lance. I think it makes sense for the 49ers to go into the draft or before the draft, right? Kind of dangling one of their players to see if a team bites. But more often than not, if it is a player that the 49ers don't actually want to trade right then, the price point is probably going to be pretty high. Like, I'm pretty sure that's why Deebo didn't end up getting traded, right? It wasn't for lack of offers or interest in Deebo Samuel. I think it was more so that no team would meet the 49ers at the price they wanted, right? So, and for the 49ers, like, sure, like, why not? Like, just ask for a lot, shoot your shot. What's that saying? Aim for the moon, you land on a star or whatever. That's kind of like the 49ers philosophy. Like, hey, yeah, like, we'll say this, we're listening on players, see what offers we get. And if we get a ridiculous offer that we can't say no to, hell yeah, we'll do it. And so now we're all just speculating on what the 49ers asking price may be. If I had a guess, it is a guess. I think a first rounder gets the conversation started, in all honesty. But again, like, would the 49ers even get that? Here, taking a second to say hi to some of the comments. What's going on, Mariah? What's going on? 187. Hey, 49er Media. Thanks, guys, for joining. Make sure you like this video if you have not yet. Appreciate it. But yeah, so I think a first rounder probably gets the conversation started for the 49ers. And look, I also want to talk about this tweet from NFL reporter Jordan Schultz, who also chimed in on the situation yesterday. Here's what he said. He said, spoke with the GM today who's not in the market for a quarterback about 49ers quarterback Trey Lance. Here's the quote. John taking calls on him was probably the worst kept secret since Indy. I know they've listened. Lance is still young and on a rookie deal. He's pretty talented. Darnold has tons of incentives in his deal, and Purdy has the elbow problem. I think it would take a pretty strong offer to get Lance. Focus on that last sentence. It would take a pretty strong offer. Another thing I want to point out that I've been pointing out for a while now is that Trey Lance has nearly 11 million. I think it's like 10.8 dead cap hit if traded before June 1st. And that's not like a deal breaker. They could, if they really wanted to trade him, the 49ers could restructure some guys to make that work. Because mind you, the 49ers only have like two, I don't remember, but they have less than 3 million in cap space right now going into the draft, right? So a $10 million dead cap hit, I don't know how that works, but they can make it work. But let's just say that it would be they'd have to kind of go out of their way to make it work, right? This is one reason why if the 49ers were to trade him, you better offer something good to make it worth it for the 49ers, right? And another thing I want to point out that many others have pointed out at this point, so I guess I'm, just kind of reminding you guys, Brock Purdy hasn't even started his throwing program yet. His recovery is going well so far, and that's all great. But like, it's still very much an unknown, right? Like, we can't just make any assumptions about what the rest of his rehab is going to look like. Is he going to be the same quarterback? All this stuff. So it's going well so far, but it would be a risk, right, to trade a quarterback asset when Purdy's rehab is still very much in progress. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, he's been a 49er for like a month, and we're just going to leave him as the only healthy quarterback if we trade Lance. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, yeah, but the 49ers can draft a quarterback if they trade Lance during the draft. Yeah, they could, and they have done some homework on some quarterbacks, most notably Dorian Thompson Robinson. Is that a smokescreen? Is that like, there have been like now 3 reports of DTR linked with the 49ers, and I don't know if that's just some smokescreen play because it might make it seem like, oh, wow, the 49ers might really like trade Lance. We should put in our offer. We should make an offer now because if we don't, another team's going to get him. I don't know. It could just all be mind games. But you know what I mean? Like, if you trade Lance, you're only going to have Darnold and likely a rookie, let's just say DTR, with Brock Purdy still rehabbing. So is that a situation you want to go in? I don't know. I mean, you could do it, but I think you'd be taking a pretty big risk, which again is why, to offset the risk, the 49ers asking price would be so high, right? So if we all agree that it takes a strong offer that, if we're being honest, is probably unlikely to be offered because Trey Lance is coming off an injury, has only played a few games in 3 years, and he's still very much an unknown. Like, no one knows what the hell he's going to be. A team who wants to take that risk, probably not going to, what's that saying? Throw the farm or sell the farm on a quarterback who is largely an unknown after 3 years being in the NFL. Or 2 years. I don't even know. Time is a construct, but you know what I mean? Like, I just don't see a team giving up what it's going to take to trade Trey Lance right now. And we also all agree, if we also all agree that it would take a financial inconvenience, remember that dead cap hit, and it would be a risk because you still don't know if Brock Purdy's going to be 100%. You would only have Sam Darnold. Doesn't it start to look very unlikely if you look at all of these things put together? You guys see where I'm going with this? So, like, again, this report changed nothing for me. I still think I still don't see a scenario in which Trey Lance is traded during or before the draft. I just don't see it happening. It's just super, super unlikely. So the report changed nothing for me. It should change nothing for you too. Like, yeah, do I think Trey Lance gets traded eventually? Yes, and I have said this, before. I think I tweeted out when the report came out, I was like, yeah, I think that Trey Lance gets traded eventually because I think the writing is on the wall. And people were like, why do you think the writing is on the wall? Like, what? Are you guys not paying attention to like everything that's going on? Like, I don't know. Just based on everything that I've seen, and maybe I'm just interpreting it wrong or I'm looking into it way too much, but I'm not convinced that the 49ers want to keep Trey Lance around. And so thank you, 49er media. Yeah, the 49ers have 2.9 million in cap. So yeah, I don't see it happening. But in the future, I do see it happening at some point. I'm not convinced that the 49ers believe that Trey Lance is going to be that guy. That can change. That can very well change down the line, but I think Trey Lance is going to have to look like phenomenal in camp and in the preseason. And if he does get that opportunity to start the first few games before Brock Purdy is back, like, it's possible that he sticks around. I don't want to like completely count it out, but it kind of just feels like the 49ers have made their mind up that they want to trade Trey Lance eventually. I think it'll eventually happen. They love Brock Purdy. That writing is certainly on the wall all over. And I know what you guys are thinking. They kept Jimmy Garoppolo when they had Trey Lance too, so they can keep two quarterbacks. And they fed us all that BS about like, oh, we're insulating our room. We have two quarterbacks, so we feel we can start. This is a great situation. But I don't know how sustainable that's going to be. I think like eventually down the line, maybe when it doesn't cost over 10 million of a dead cap hit to trade him, they would feel more comfortable to do it. Also, when Brock Purdy is back to being 100% and can start again, I think that's a time where they'll then look to explore a trade with Lance. And there's definitely some teams that would be interested, right? I mean, you look at you look at the Titans, who Rand Carthon's over there. You look at the Texans, D'Amico Ryans is over there, right? Those are two teams who, I think would be willing to take a chance on Trey Lance. And let's not forget that I think this happens every freaking season. There's a team who gets a quarterback in free agency or the draft. That quarterback is not as good as what they thought they were going to be. And mid-season or, before then, they're looking elsewhere. Like they want another quarterback. So that could be a time where the 49ers can once again keep the phone line open, take any calls on Trey Lance, and maybe then when Brock Purdy is starting again, when Brock Purdy is looking better, maybe then they're more willing to trade Trey Lance. But I don't see it happening, this offseason. I don't see it happening during the draft. There's just too many. If the 49ers were looking at the pros and cons, there's way too many cons, and the cons outweigh, the pros, I think, to get this done. Unless the pros includes a first round pick, and maybe another pick, then the pros become, quite heavy. But if not, I don't think it happens. Like, simple as that. I don't think Trey Lance is getting traded this offseason. I've been saying it. and I'll keep saying it. I can't wait till the draft is over so that I can be like, see? And if the 49ers do get offered like a first or like whatever the hell they're looking for Trey Lance, and they do trade him this draft, then fine. Like, they got what they wanted out of the situation, and I think it's a win-win. But like, again, it wouldn't come without risks. So I think it would be a big risk. I just don't see the 49ers doing that quite yet. So, but we'll see. Hopefully you guys liked my take. I know I didn't go live yesterday because I was like, oh man, like not this crap. Like, everyone on the timeline on Twitter was just like going crazy about it, making all these assumptions. And I didn't want to be part of that noise. Like, I kind of just wanted to process this information for a day and have a more nuanced, and I didn't want to be all over the place with it. I don't know. So hopefully I made sense today. Hopefully you guys feel the same way as I do. And we'll see what happens in a week. But yeah. All right, guys. I don't know if I'm going live tomorrow. I don't think so. I'm going to start my weekend early. But I got some great draft content for you guys coming up next week. So make sure you guys tune into that. Make sure you guys like this video if you have not yet. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Appreciate all you guys. What's going on, CG? Yeah, CG's got a lot of player interviews on his channel as well. So if you guys have enjoyed the ones on my channel, make sure you guys check his out as well. No Border Sports says my Seahawks friend I do shows with was like, can we please not talk Trey again? I quite frankly, I am also very tired of talking about the quarterbacks, and that's why I just wanted like a day to just, can we not? Like tomorrow, yesterday I just didn't want to talk about it, but figured I probably should. So today, that's what today was for. But yeah, hopefully the trade conversations are not dead. Like, we're going to keep talking about Trey. We're going to keep talking about the quarterback position for the 49ers for as long as, until the 49ers have like an undisputed QB1 and they have no BS competition going on. It's always going to be a topic, unfortunately. Javier here says, Lance on the trade block. What did I miss? He is not on the trade block. Simply, the 49ers are listening to calls on Trey Lance, which is not surprising because John Lynch literally told us that they would listen on offers for Trey Lance. Excuse me. And so this is what John Lynch said at the combine. Look at the highlighted parts. We like Trey on our team right now. Okay, note the right now. And then we listen to anything, but we like Trey on our team. And then yesterday was the report from Ian Rapoport saying that the 49ers or several teams have inquired about Trey Lance, which is not surprising, right? So none of this is groundbreaking. Javier, I'm like I already said my piece about it. I've been live for the last 23 minutes. So if you want to catch up on everything I said, start this from the beginning, I guess. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. He's not on the trade block. They're just listening. If you want to call that on the trade block, then sure. But I don't think he's going to be traded before or during the draft. Maybe eventually somewhere down the line in the future, but just not now. It's not. Very, very unlikely for all the reasons that I mentioned in the last 20 minutes. So CG says 49ers don't leak information. I think they listen to offers, including trading themselves. Maybe believe it won't happen. I don't believe the 49ers don't leak information. In fact, I think this Ian Rapoport report came directly from the 49ers or someone in the building. And I talked about that in the beginning of the video as well. Just because it's very politically correct. It pretty much echoed what John Lynch said at the combine. And it seemed like there was an emphasis to include the fact that they're fielding calls. They're not making them. Only the 49ers would be very intent on letting people know they're not the ones making the calls. You know what I mean? So this report came from the 49ers. But yeah, well, it's just to see if teams will give them an offer that they can't refuse, right? They kind of did the same thing with Debo a bit, right? Again, shoot your shot. I'm not mad at it. Whatever. I don't think they'll get what they're looking for, but it doesn't hurt to try. So CG says, I think Ty Davis Price is gone. He isn't panning out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could say that he's going to be gone, but he definitely didn't really pan out in his first year, which, it's his first year, so we'll give him some time. But I think there'll be a bit of a panic, and there'll be not panic, but there'll be some impatience if he's not looking good again in training camp, right? It might be another Trey Sermon situation. I think Ty Davis Price can turn a corner, but we'll see. It definitely seems like the 49ers are looking into running backs in this draft. So there will definitely be competition for Ty Davis Price. And the reason that, the 49ers felt so comfortable, moving on from Trey Sermon and not giving him another chance on their 53 is because Jordan Mason kind of like emerged, right? And he was just too good to let go. So Ty Davis Price, if a guy that they add in the draft or be an undrafted free agent, if those guys end up being better than TDP, yeah, there might be some trouble for him, but we'll see. No Border Sports said it could also be a way to tell the teams that haven't called to make a call. Yeah, exactly. And I also think the visits that we've been hearing about the 49ers, or like the news reports we've been hearing about the 49ers meeting with Dorian Thompson Robinson, that to me kind of seems like a smokescreen, because DTR is not going to be, he might not even be available when the 49ers pick in the third round. He might not be. But just seeing those reports could have a team thinking, oh, like maybe they are going to trade Trey Lance to another team. Like we should probably call if we're interested. I don't know. That's just my thought. I think that could be a smokescreen potentially. Unless he falls to the fifth round, and the 49ers would be interested in DTR in the fifth round if he falls there, but I don't know if he would. So yeah, definitely they're trying to bait teams and see if teams will offer them anything. I'm not mad at it. I mean, it's business. So yeah, Uncle Salty says Niners always draft a running back. Don't be surprised. Yeah, they do. I'm over them drafting running backs in the third round, though. It's like that just never seems to work out for them. But it could happen. It definitely could happen again. That'd be insane. Uncle Salty also says Lance situation is annoying, but a trade may happen if some team's willing to pay a big price. Bingo. One, it is annoying, yes. And two, I'm not completely ruling it out that it might not happen. I know I've been very adamant and I've had a very strong stance that I don't think he's going to be traded during or before the draft, but it is possible. It is possible. Anything is possible. It is possible that a team does give up a lot for Trey Lance. It's just very unlikely. You know what I mean? And what is a big price? Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think the 49ers would accept for Trey Lance right now, knowing everything we know? The fact that it before June 1st, it'd be a $10 million dead cap hit, knowing that we still don't know if Brock Purdy, his rehab is going to go, perfectly the rest of the way. It's a risk, right? Knowing all of this, what do you think would make it worth it for the 49ers to trade Trey Lance right now? Whereas later down the line, it would be a whole lot better, less risk, less money. I think at least a first. At least. And I don't see a team giving that up. So that's why I'm like, I don't think it's going to happen. Uncle Salty said, my hope is the Niners hold on to Lance until they are 100% sure Purdy is fully healthy. Yeah. I am on the same boat. It makes complete sense to wait until Purdy is 100% back. He's starting again. Trey Lance gets traded in the middle of the season. That's like the only scenario that I think makes sense. And I mean, Trey Lance, it gets traded because also, maybe he increased his value and you feel good about it. So I don't know. No Border Sports said they didn't trade Jimmy for a second, so I don't know. Yeah, because like the 49ers like overvalue some of their guys, but I think in certain situations it makes sense. Like they overvalue guys before the draft just to see if a team will like offer them that. And also because it's kind of like a weird time to trade. In this particular scenario, there's little incentive for the 49ers to trade Trey Lance right now. So that's why I think it makes sense for them to overvalue Lance a little bit right now. CG says, I keep Trey and see what he does. No need to rush Purdy in. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for like making sense. Like same. I would do the same. Uncle Salty, I would take a late first and a third for Lance at the minimum. I like the way you think. I think I'm kind of right there. Like I said, I think a first starts the conversation for the 49ers. CG says, are we even confident in Darnold? I'm not sure about him. We would have to draft a quarterback if we trade Trey. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, right? If the 49ers do trade Trey Lance, the only healthy quarterback you're going to have is Sam Darnold, who has only been a 49er for like a month. Like that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Yes, you can draft a quarterback. He's going to be a rookie. Also a risk, right there. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a risk, and to me, it's a risk that would only be worth it at a certain price. And if a team is willing to pay that price, that's the only scenario that I see this happening. Very unlikely a team pays that price. So that's why I think the 49ers ultimately they stick with Lance through the draft. He's going to be their quarterback in training camp. There will be a competition between Darnold and Trey Lance, and may the best man win. Whoever that may be. And then you can reassess the situation once Brock Purdy is healthy, and then you can look at trading Trey Lance at that point, because teams will definitely start calling again at that point. Yep, no Border Sports. You have to restructure a contract if you want to trade Trey and sign the rookies and extend Bosa. Yeah, absolutely. Which isn't like impossible to do. They could do it, but it's like, why restructure a contract if you don't have to, or if it's not like worth it to you? So again, a very strong offer is the only way that this happens. Doubt they get a very strong offer. So yeah, that's how I'm looking at all of this. Well, guys, I'm gonna head out for the evening. It's 5:37 out here in Colorado, so I am going to have some dinner. But man, I hate talking about this quarterback drama, but when you guys are in the comments and we're talking about it together, it makes it tolerable. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys subscribe, and yeah, like I said, I'll have some more content, more draft content next week. And John Lynch is going to be talking to the media, his pre-draft presser or whatever, his media availability before the draft on Monday. I'm sure he's going to get plenty of questions about Trey Lance, so there will be more to talk about after that. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your evening. Peace.